What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the BnG podcast, episode 78. So I guess you can call this our Morgan Moses episode. Let me go ahead and address the elephant in the room. Guys, I know we've been going for a hiatus. I know we've been going for a while. I know we've been going for over a month, and that is unacceptable. But to be completely transparent with you guys, as I like doing with my fans and things like that, your boy ain't been the healthiest. Your boy has not been the healthiest. Your boy has faced a number of health ailments that's kind of just slowed me down, kind of made me, think, just slowed me down, because without my health, I can't do this, and health is wealth. And, you got to keep the main thing, and health is, one of the highest priorities in my life, man. So, guys, health is wealth, so make sure you stay on top of your health and everything. But guess what? We're back. We're back to take over our throne, take over our crown as the number one content hub for everything Washington Commanders. So, as for every YouTube video, we gotta get this traction back. Be sure to comment, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe. We gotta get this traction back, because guess what? I got a lot of content coming for you, because like I told you at the end of last episode, and like I've told you many times before, the off season is the exciting time for the Washington Commanders. This is our championship time. This is our playoffs, the off season. And to go along with that, during our hiatus, there have been a number of things that have kept the Washington Commanders in the news. We've hired offensive coordinator Eric BnG, and he'll also be serving as an assistant head coach. Is the sale happening? To sell or to not to sell? We released Carson Wentz, even though that was expected with his sorry ass. And it's just been a lot of news. Owner Dan Snyder, is he freezing out Jeff Bezos to buy the team? He's using the team's personal revenue as his, personal piggy bank fund and everything like that. So like I've told you guys before, drama seems to never escape the Washington Commanders. But we're back. We have a lot of content to push out. To give you a timestamp, as I do for every episode, it's about 11 p.m. on Sunday, March the 5th. The Combine actually just wrapped up, and we have an exciting episode for you today. So the theme for today's episode is we're going to go over our 5 favorite prospects for Washington at the 16th pick in the first round, coming off of the Combine. So the post-Combine, 5 favorite prospects for Washington at 16. I'm not going to keep you guys long. This is the start of some fire content that we're going to be putting out for the offseason, so be sure to be tapped into the page. And we're going to go decrescendo style. So I'm going to go with my 5th favorite prospect for Washington at 16, 4th, and so on and so on. But to start, at number 5, we have safety slot defender Brian Branch from the University of Alabama. Brian stands about 6 feet, 190 pounds. And I know I've attacked guys that have used the Combine as a prisoner of the moment and things like that. I'm a big film over everything guy. Whatever you put on tape overrides whatever you do in these athletic testing numbers, these all-star games, and everything that you do in draft season. Whatever you do on film matters to me the most. Film reigns hell over everything. But I'll be a liar. I'll be remiss to say that I'm not gonna lie. The 4.58 that Brian Branch ran at the Combine did scare me off a little bit, and let me tell you my reasons why. One of my biggest issues is, and one of the reasons why Brian Branch is only 5 on my list, and not higher, is because Brian Branch a week ago he wasn't even on this list. And then he started to creep up this list, creep up my rankings. Once the news that we released Bobby McCain came out last Monday, I believe. But let me tell you one of the reasons that Brian Branch wasn't even on my radar to begin with. It's the same reason why I was kind of praising the move of us releasing Bobby McCain. And this is why. Guys, the Commanders really don't have a true nickel corner on their roster. Kendall Fuller tried to serve as that as the first couple of games this year, but his lateral quickness is shot. He simply can't do it anymore. He's best served as a boundary corner, no matter how elite he was as a slot corner. early in his career. Because I'll be remiss to not mention that he was elite as a slot corner early in his career. I think that 2017 season he ranked as like the number one slot corner in the NFL. He does not have that lateral quickness anymore, and I think a lot of the casual NFL fans what they fail to realize is because they're so used to the big names playing these X and Z receivers on the boundaries and things like that, is that the slot corner is oftentimes harder to cover some of these the slot corner the slot receiver than some of these big names that just play solely on the boundary and things like that, simply because you have so much more space to cover. Boundary corners and with wide receivers playing on the boundary, they can use the sideline as a third defender. When you in the slot, you got to be able to check the guy going left, the guy going right, the guy going behind you, the guy going up top, the guy running the intermediate route across your face. You just have to worry about so much spatial awareness that you have to be a special type athlete to play that nickel defender slot corner role in the NFL, and it's essential in today's NFL. In 2023, with so much 11 personnel that these offenses are running, it's essential that you have a slot corner. And what we've been doing is putting a Band-Aid on that position and putting a lot of safeties there and calling it a big nickel. Now, my issue with that is that simply just based off personnel, that cuts off half of what you can do, because you're not going to have these safeties playing man coverage. Now, I know that, Jack Del Rio and just us as the Commanders, we're a zone-heavy team. We run a lot of quarters. We run a lot of cover 3 and things such as that, cover 6 and such as that. But when your personnel limits you to not even try to run man and things like that, you become accustomed to, and teams start getting used to it. That's why, when the pass rush wasn't getting there, quarterbacks were able to pick us apart and things like that, because they knew that we weren't playing man. Simply because we didn't have the personnel to play it. I love Cam Curl to death, but when he was playing in that big nickel, and he's probably our best man cover safety, but you're not going to put these guys, and you're especially not going to put Bobby McCain along the likes of like Devontae Smith and CeeDee Lamb, guys who operate out of the slot more often than they don't. Like, you're not going to do that with Bobby McCain, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't really wasn't too high on having Brian Branch there, because he's a hybrid defender. I feel like we got enough of those right now. And, is he a safety? Is he a slot defender? And that 4-5-8 kind of scared me off. I'm not even going to lie to you. Because you're not going to be playing a lot of man coverage in the NFL, checking a lot of these slot receivers running a 4-5-8. I'm sorry. It just is what it is. So, I mean, that goes back, if we're bringing in Brian Branch as a Bobby McCain replacement, that goes back to him being such as like, our personnel, cutting off half of the things we can do versatility-wise. We're going straight zone coverage for another year. If you look back at some of the games when the pass rush just wasn't getting there, and some of the games when they were, I can remember the pass rush getting there a lot against the Minnesota Vikings, but Kirk Cousins was still able to pick us apart simply because he knew we were in a zone. He just had to figure out what type of zone we were in. And I'm hoping for a true slot corner. So while I'm big on Brian Branch as a player, I'm not huge on his fit for the Commanders. He's a high IQ player. He does not miss tackles. At all. He kind of reminds me of, Cal Hamilton last year as far as, having, limited athletic upside. But the biggest difference is that Cal Hamilton was 6'4", and Cal Hamilton was an even more dynamic player at the college level. Those 4 to 5 inches make a difference. Excuse me, pause. So Brian Branch, while he's still on my radar, he's kind of fell back down. He was creeping towards the top 3 after the Bobby McCain news about his release and things like that. But he's kind of simmered back down, so he's right down locked in at number 5 on our prospects that we would like for the Washington Commanders to select at number 16. So moving on up, number 4 is Joey Porter Jr., cornerback from Penn State. So yes, we have another DB on our list and things like that, because I think that's probably the biggest need for Washington is cornerback, or outside of the next position that we're going to touch into. Don't want to spoil the lead just yet, but cornerback Joey Porter Jr. out of Penn State. He's 6'2", 2/3. He's almost 6'3", guys. He has 34-inch arms. Let me repeat that. He has 34-inch arms. He has arms the size of, 6'6" offensive tackles and things like that. He shockingly ran a 4.46, and he's 194 pounds. And the reason why I say he shockingly ran a 4.46 is that he doesn't look that fast on tape. And if you listen to that name, Joey Porter Jr., and it kind of rings a bell, yes, he is the son of NFL legend, former Pittsburgh Steeler, Joey Porter. So you know that the pedigree is there. You know that the pedigree is there, and I'm a big Joey Porter Jr. fan. He is dominant at the line of scrimmage. He's dominant at the line of scrimmage, and to be honest, that's why I think some of the times that, even me, I thought that he wasn't as fast as the 40 time that he ran, because a lot of the times he's eliminating his opponent at the line of scrimmage. He doesn't even need to run. He doesn't even need to turn and run and showcase some of the speed that he has and things like that. Because a 4.46 at 6'3", almost 195 pounds is nothing to sloth that. Nothing to sloth that. He has similar measurables to Richard Sherman. I think he has even longer arms. And he ran almost a tenth of a second faster 40. I think Richard Sherman almost ran like a 4.6. It was like a 4.56. And that 34-inch wingspan, that 34-inch arm length is what you look for in big corners. Especially if you're going to play a zone-heavy scheme like we do over here with the Washington Commanders. I remember reading articles back in the day, Scott McCloughan and John Schneider and things like that, when they were talking about the type of cornerbacks that they were looking to fit that, cover 3 Legion of Boom Seattle scheme and things like that. And I remember them vividly saying it was like 33, 34-inch arm lengths is ideal. Well, guess what? Joey Porter Jr. fits that bill if that's what you're looking for. And if you team him up with a guy like Benjamin St-Juste, I do have questions about which one of them guys is going to be able to turn and run with some of these elite deep threats in the NFL. But if St-Juste can get better with his press bell game, because I think that Joey Porter Jr. is already elite in that aspect, and they can hold these dudes up at the line and let that pass rush get there, oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. If they could just hold these guys up at the line of scrimmage for 2 seconds, and let the likes of Deron Payne, John Allen, Montez Sweat, and Blonde Clowney Chase Young get to the quarterback, we might be on to something cooking with the Washington Commanders, man. As I mentioned, he's dominant at the line of scrimmage. He's not as scheme versatile as some of the other corners. He's not as scheme versatile as like a Devin Witherspoon and another guy that we'll be naming on our list a little later. I think that he's going to be a heavy zone type of corner. He's good in press bell. He's good in press bell. He's good in press man. He's a little handsy. And he didn't have a lot of interceptions, but that's simply because he's so dominant at the line of scrimmage. Quarterbacks simply don't look his way after their first read. If their first read is eliminated by Joey Porter Jr. at the line of scrimmage, of course I'm not going to throw that ball. So he doesn't have the ball skill production. He doesn't have the interception numbers and things like that that really pop out for, top 10 to top 5 cornerbacks. And this is one of the reasons why I think he might be available for Washington at 16. But for a team that runs a lot of zone and things like that, Joey Porter Jr. is more than an ideal fit at number 4 on our list. Moving on to number 3. This is where we get to the big uglies. Everybody, if you watched the Washington Commanders game last year, no matter what game you saw, you know that we need a wholesale change in the offensive line unit. And a guy like the guy that I'm going to name right now, it will be a day one starter. And he's only number 3 on our list. That's how bad the Washington offensive line was. We need at least 3 new linemen, in my opinion. I think that Trace Roulier is gone with his injuries and things like that. He might retire. Trey Turner is fucking cooked. I told y'all in week 2 that he was the worst guard in the NFL. That ain't do nothing but hold true. Andrew Norwell is not as cooked, but he sucks as well. I'm willing to give Sam Cosmi 1 more year, but he had a sophomore slump after a promising rookie year. And Charles Leno, he just forgot how to fucking play football the last month of the season. I don't know what the fuck happened to him. But this guy over here, number 3, he might be better than all the linemen I just named on this Washington Commanders line right now. And that's offensive tackle Darnell Wright from Tennessee. 6'5", 333 pounds, 33-inch arms. He ran a 5.0140. And this guy's game is power. He played right tackle this past season. But I know in his combine interview, he said that he would prefer to play on the left side. And like I said, this is a behemoth of a gentleman. 6'5", 333 pounds. He's already 25 pounds heavier than Charles Leno. I guarantee you he's going to be able to give you more in the run game right now than Charles Leno. And he's not too far off in the pass game. He's not too far off in the pass game. But as I mentioned before, power is his game. He mauls dudes. He's mauls dudes. I forgot what his hand size was, but I'm interested to see that because once he puts them big-ass ham hocks inside dudes' shoulder pads, he eliminates them. He eliminates them. Go back and look at his game against Alabama. He won more reps than against Will Anderson than he lost. Way more. And I'm talking way more. It wasn't 50-50. It was more like 80-20. 80-20 Darnell Wright. And this is a guy in Will Anderson Jr. who's going to be arguably a top 3 pick. This behemoth of a man has played all over the line. As I mentioned, he played right tackle this past year, but he has experience playing the left tackle position as well. His technique can get a little funky at times. He is a waist bender, and he relies on his athleticism a lot. His technique is poor, to say the least. I know he likes short-setting guys and things like that, but a lot of that is not going to work in the NFL when you got guys who are just as athletes as you are. But I know we have a pretty good offensive line coach over there, and Pete Hainer and things like that. So hopefully he can refine it if we do bring in a guy like Darnell Wright. Because as I mentioned, the athletic tools are there. 6'5", 333, moving like a dancing bear, 5.0140, excuse me. He was almost at a 5-second flat 40. That's nothing to scoff at that size. And as I told you guys before, to start this episode, film. I'm a big film junkie. And guess what? He got the film to back it up. Beating the shit out of Will Anderson if we keeping it frank. And BJ Ojolari from LSU, who's one of a premier edge rusher out the SEC as well. He won both of those matchups. This is a guy that I said he'll come in day one and be your starting right tackle, right? And if you want to keep Charles Leno for a year, have that veteran presence and everything like that, he'll play the right tackle, and guess what? He'll be more than groomed enough to play the left tackle once you cut bait with Charles Leno. Something that I wish happened sooner rather than later. He's more than capable of fulfilling that role right now. But if he does play the right side and play that right tackle position, and you just so happen to put Sam Cosmi over there, that right guard, that makes for a powerful ass right side of a lineup. That makes for a powerful ass right side of a lineup. Boy, do I tell you. Oh, you're going to get a lot of push in the run game with that right side with Cosmi and Darnell Wright over there. Oh, man. Just run behind them. Just run behind them dudes. Excuse my language. At number 2 on my list, we're staying with the offensive tackle position. Bro, Derrick Jones, offensive tackle from the University of Georgia. And this guy's an athletic freak as well. 6'5", 311 pounds. So he's a little lighter than Darnell, right? He has 34-inch arms. And guess what? He ran a sub 540 at 4.97 seconds. This is my favorite tackle in the class. Well, my second favorite tackle. I don't think that Prince Johnson Jr. is going to be there. I think that he's going to be drafted within the top 10. I think that he's offensive tackle number 1 right now. But I like Bro Derrick Jones better than a guy like Pete Skoronski out of Northwestern. You notice he hasn't even made my list. Newsflash, or I'm not here. I'm here to ruin the surprise. He's not on it. He's not on it. Because with Eric Bieniemy, and if you watch the Kansas City Chiefs over the last 5 years, one thing that you've noticed outside the exception of a guy like Orlando Brown is that their linemen are exceptional in space. Look at a guy like Creed Humphrey. Even when they had guys like Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz, these guys were exceptional in space. That's why they were so good in the screen game and things like that. And guess what? We had linemen that couldn't move in space last year. That's why our screen game was ass. And bringing guys like Darnell Wright and even an even better athlete like Bo Derrick Jones, who's still only 21 years old. Oh my gosh. Oh my, and you addressing the needs. As I mentioned before, if it's not cornerback, offensive line is the biggest need for the Washington Commanders. And if you notice the trend, those are the only two positions on my list. And newsflash, it's going to be the only two positions on my list. Bro, Derrick Jones is an athletic freak. He moves very well in space, as I mentioned. Just like an Eric BnG lineman is going to need to be. Could you imagine this guy going out for a screen pass, clearing way for Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson? Oh. Or pulling on the counter for Brian Robinson? Watch out. And just as I mentioned before, he can play the right tackle position as well. You want to do this, the scenario that I mentioned with Charles Leno, as I just mentioned for Darnell Wright, he can slide in the right tackle this year. Whenever you cut bait with Charles Leno, boom, you have a prime tackle there to take his spot. Or you can draft another left tackle and have bookend tackles for the next decade. So I don't see this is a win-win scenario for me. I don't see how you can lose selecting one of these elite offensive tackles that I've mentioned today. The reason that Derrick Jones might still be there at 16, I've heard that he's had some character issues. I'm not a big believer in that, unless I hear it. I'm not really going to buy into what a lot of people say that they heard from another dude through their cousin, through the grapevine. Nah, I'm not huge on that. But that is one of the reasons that draft gurus and teams have mentioned that he may slide in the draft and things like that. And also, he's very raw. He only played 2 years at Georgia full time. He redshirted his freshman year. Then he's a redshirt sophomore, so he played his redshirt freshman year and his redshirt sophomore year before coming out. But guess what? That gives him more time in the NFL. At 21, he's got a lot of time to tap into his prime and things like that. And if this is a guy that 2 contracts in, he'll still only be 30. He'll still only be 30 and might be in prime for another big contract going into, the final stages of his career. And that's one of the reasons I gave him the slight edge over Darnell Wright. I think he moves a little bit better in space, and he's a little younger. And to cap off our list, to finish off episode 78 of the Bleeding BnG podcast, as I mentioned before, I'm glad that you guys are rocking with me. Welcome back. I'm back. I'm not going anywhere. My health is back. We're back. Number one content hub. Everything for Washington Commanders. It's the off season, our winning time, our playoffs, our Super Bowl, and I can't forget that. So I'm back. But number one on our list is our 5 favorite prospects for the Washington Commanders at number 16. Is that man? Cornerback Christian Gonzalez from the University of Oregon. 6'1 3/4, 197 pounds, 4'3", 840, 41.5-inch vert. This man absolutely smoked the combine. Those movement skills at 6'2", and it's everything that I saw on film. I'm not even going to lie. He's such a good technician. I thought that he was going to run slower than what he did. Because you know those guys that are real good with their feet and things like that, then they test think of a Tyrann Mathieu and things like that. Amazing footwork, but their instincts and their footwork makes up for a lot of their top end speed and things like that. I'm not even going to lie. When the reports were coming out that Christian Gonzalez was going to run a 4.3 and things like that, I was skeptical. But boy, did he prove me wrong. And as I mentioned before, it's all about the film. While I'm skeptical about, Pac-12 DBs because I really haven't seen a good Pac-12 CB since Richard Sherman, he has the film to back it up. He has the athletic profile to back it up. He has the scheme versatility to back it up. This is a guy that can play man. This is a guy that can play zone. This is a guy that can play on the boundary. This is a guy that can play in the slot. You want to know how I know? Because he did it. He gave it to you any which way in the Pac-12. Well, they're going to throw the ball. where you know they're going to throw the ball. And guess what? A lot of these athletic numbers, the 4.38, the 41.5-inch vert, those weren't even my favorite things about Christian Gonzalez this weekend. Go look at him in the on-field drills. That boy's back pedal is crisp. I don't know that too many big corners at 6'2" they have feet like that. They don't have to rely on, their length and things like that. They're jam at the line and things like that. I've seen reps on film of Christian Gonzalez playing press man where he didn't even have to lay a hand on the receiver and ran with him stride for stride in their hip pocket. I think he has the potential of being that special of a player. And if you've been tapped into our Twitter, you saw our detective work. We brought the magnifying glass out. They call me Stunner Holmes over here sometimes. Because, they had a picture from Jack Del Rio at the Combine that they eventually deleted, cropped out, and reproduced the picture with this thing cropped out of it. But in the initial picture, it looked like Jack Del Rio had a paper that was folded up with a lot of prospects on it. And it looked like he had a little write-up on a couple of prospects. We hit the zoom in. Shout out to the iPhone 14, iPhone, we hit the zoom in. These iPhones are amazing. You don't miss anything. We put out the magnifying glass and we looked. Go check out our Twitter if you don't know what post I'm talking about. Jack Del Rio seemed to have the longest write-up on Christian Gonzalez. It was like he wrote a whole bio about bro. It looked like he was very intrigued about the performance that Christian Gonzalez was going to put on in Indianapolis. But hey, I'm just a messenger. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out our Twitter, man. Because guess what? We're always on top of it over at BnG. And as I mentioned before, I'm back. But those are our 5 favorite prospects for Washington at 16. I'm excited. The draft is a month away. Draft is about 7 weeks away. We have a lot of fire content coming for you. I want to do film breakdown for all 5 of these guys that I've mentioned today. Yeah, we giving out film breakdowns and everything. We're stepping up our content game. Man, give me the 1K. It ain't no reason I've been over here for 2 years and I ain't been at 1K yet. Get me the 1K. Thank you guys for tapping into this page. Thank you guys for tapping into this video. If you haven't already, as I mentioned before, tap into our social medias. Please follow our Instagram. Our Instagram is at BleedingBNG, BLEEDING, BNG. Our Twitter handle is spelled a tad bit different. That one's BLEEDIN, BNG. So there's only one G in our Twitter handle. If you're listening to us audio only, on podcast platform only, especially on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, be sure to leave a rating. Be sure to leave a review. Let's finesse these algorithms so that Bleeding BnG is the number one content hub or the number one thing that pops up. When you hit that search bar and you're looking for your Washington Commanders content, type in that Bleeding BnG. If we finesse these algorithms enough, we're going to be the first thing that pops up. I'm trying to stay relevant up on your timeline, up in your algorithms. I will never leave you guys again. I'm back. I have a lot of more fire content to put out. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode of the Bleeding BnG podcast, and I'll check in on you guys later. Peace.